Hi, good evening. Welcome to What the Papers Are Saying. My name is Salom Adunu. We have a packed show for you tonight. We'll return, look at what stories made the headlines in what newspapers or portals. Introduce my guest, and we'll delve into the discussion proper. Once again, you're welcome. Don't go away. You're welcome back to What the Papers Are Saying. A number of stories made the headlines this week. Topical amongst them being, of course, the media budget that the finance minister read before Parliament today. So we'll start our discussion with that. Also, the week has been heavy on politics and violence at registration centers. Minister of State in charge of Special Development Initiatives, Hawa Kumsin, has come up for mention. Other incidents in Banda, Ahinkro, and other places have also marred the smooth registration exercise. We will delve into that and see what various interest groups, including the EC itself, have been saying about happenings as far as the registration of voters is concerned. So let's look at how various newspapers and portals captured these headlines on their front pages. CityNewsroom.com on the media budget review says government requests 11.8 billion supplementary budget amid COVID-19 pandemic. City Newsroom again, Ghana's debt stock rises to 255.7 billion cedis. Government reduces stock tax from 9% to 5%. Graphic.com.gh, cooked meals disbursed during COVID-19 cost 54.3 million Ghana cedis, and that's according to the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. MyJoyOnline.com, Ghanaians to enjoy another 3 months of free electricity, water, Ofori-Atta announces. Business Finder, media budget, expectations high, ICU pushes for extension of subsidies, Guta wants permanent bailout fund. On the story on violence at registration centers, CityNewsroom.com says don't go to registration centers to resolve issues. EC wants politicians. CityNewsroom.com again, dismiss, prosecute gangster Hawa Kumsin immediately. The NDC to Akufo-Addo. Daily Graphic, blame political actors for violence. EC, police warn lawbreakers at registration centers, says cases of violence being investigated. Ghanaian Times, hostilities at voter registration centers. Stop acts of violence. Peace Council descends on political parties. Chaos at Kaswa. Police invite Hawa Kumsin, 4 others granted bail. The Herald, pressure on Akufo-Addo to sack gangster minister. Ghanaian Times, disturbances at voter registration center. Deal with troublemakers, EC tells security agencies. CityNewsroom.com, Hawa Kumsin's use of firearm at registration center justified. Obri Boahin. CityNewsroom.com, Kodeo condemns violence unauthorized persons at voter registration centers. The New Publisher, police probe Rambo minister over shooting at registration center. The Ghanaian Publisher, I acted in self-defense. Hawa Kumsin. The Chronicle, Occupy Ghana, prosecute Hawa Kumsin if. The Guardian Observer, Freddie Blay plots MPP's 2020 victory, charges regional chairman. I fired gunshots in self-defense. Hawa Kumsin. The National Democrat, churches call on Akufo-Addo to fire Hawa Kumsin. Rise and be counted, Sami Jemfi tells good cops soldiers. Daybreak, resign, Peace Council to Hawa Kumsing. And finally, ABC News, don't go to registration centers to resolve issues. EC wants politicians. Well, so you've seen how the papers and the various news portals have reported the top headlines or the top news items for this week. I have my guest seated. My guest for this evening, Bernard Koku-Avle, host of the City Breakfast Show and also host of Point of View on City TV. Bernard, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Also, Duke Mensah Opoku, City FM City TV's parliamentary correspondent. Today was a big day for him because the finance minister was in parliament. And also, he is host of The Chamber, which also discusses matters in parliament here on City TV. Duke, you're welcome.
Thank you, Salam.
All right, so I'll start with you, Duke. You are in parliament today. What's your impression about today's budget statement, mid-year budget review statement that's delivered by the finance minister?
I think that this mid-year review is probably the most anticipated, or was really anticipated by everybody, probably the most anticipated in the recent history of the country, because of obviously the issue, the fact that the country is not in normal times. Globally, every country has found themselves in a situation where they've had to readjust economically, socially, and in terms of even life. So looking at Ghana and looking at the fact that in November, government requested for a budget of, or estimate of some 98 billion Ghana cedis, and was looking at revenues and expenditure in that regard. And you take a look at the fact that 5 months into that budget coming into force, we had an issue that nobody really thought could disrupt the world in such in such magnitude coming into force. Obviously, every manager of an economy would be hit, as it has been hit. There have been hits like that globally. So it was something that everybody was looking forward to. Members of parliament, the Ghanaians at large, people who have a stake in the country, everybody was looking for, and even external donors, and everybody was looking forward to that. Looking at the presentation itself, I think that it's a presentation that I'll describe it as a very bold and ambitious presentation. So for government to look at spending 100 billion Ghana cedis in revitalizing the country in a program that has been dubbed Ghana Coronavirus Alleviation and Revitalization of Enterprises Support, Ghana Cares, or some 100 billion Ghana cedis, or what the finance minister termed as Obatampa program, is something that is bold. But if you take a look at it, there are some similarities of what government intends to do with what happened in the 1930s, of the Great Depression, where the global situation or the falling of the global financial system at the time of about a 4-year period caused a global GDP decline of some 26.7%, which was responded to then by the President of the United States, of course, leading the charge globally with what was called the New Deal program, with the 3 R's, that is recovery for the economy, reform of the financial services, and then recovery, that is relief for the unemployed. If you take a look at that and you look at what government intends to do with this 100 billion Ghana Cares program, it has certain similarities, if I may want to put it that way, because you have for the first time the finance minister announcing that government intends to put in place unemployment benefits for those who have lost their jobs, temporarily. There's also looking at the issues of creating some sort of economic relief, which is why government is putting a 2 billion guarantee facility to be assessed by large businesses, something that was also mentioned, which I think was quite novel. And there's also the mention of data, that is the cutting down of the communication service tax from 9% to 5%, because many Ghanaians now currently, a lot of people have had to work from home, even in our own establishment, even our own organization. A lot of people have had to work from home because of the protocols associated with, the global pandemic that the world is currently dealing with. But in as much as this is a very, very bold statement, a very, very bold vision, a very, very bold plan that was put forward by government through the finance minister today, what we look forward to seeing going forward is the structure and the real parameters with which this is going to be implemented. Because a thought without an action, or a plan in and of itself, is not an achievement. You can have all the bold plans and have all the clear vision, but if there's no structure to it, which is going to produce the real results to achieve the intended aim, you have not done that. Thankfully, government or the finance minister has said that in the next few days, the program will be launched, the policies will be put in place. Of course, the policies just being put in place, what are going to be the safeguards to ensure that this is really going to be done? What is the safeguard which is going to ensure that this is really going to be done for the benefit of the entire citizenry in the country? So for me, in as much as it is bold, we wait to see the parameters, the real policy framework for which this is going to be achieved, so that we can really measure the success. Apart from that, if we don't see the real action, if we don't see the parameters, if we don't see the details of what government intends to do, it will just be a bold plan and a bold action without any real framework to measure the successes with which you can, or to measure the real achievements, or to measure the real success of what government intends to do. Apart from that, it's a brilliant plan, a bold idea, but we need detail so that we will be able to scrutinize it, because if there's no detail for scrutiny, the people for whom you are doing these things cannot really understand and make input into it, if that's how I put it.
Very well. So, Bernard, he thinks it's a bold budget. Keselatu Forson, for example, thinks it was disappointing. I heard Joe Jackson earlier in the day. He said he thought it was scary. He thought the situation was bad, but the budget depicted a worse situation. What do you think?
Thank you, Salom, and thank you, Duke. I think that when you are in a situation like this, you are a lot of tensions that you face as a Minister of Finance. You are presenting a midterm budget 4 months to an election, and therefore you want to tell people that since you took over in 2017, you've done well. So you want to present a positive story. But you also want to let them know that because of COVID and because of where the world is, things are going to be more difficult for them. That's the tension you face. So you are balancing trying to sell a good story with also telling people that prepare for trouble. Okay? So that's first tension. Second tension is you are facing a revenue shortfall because by his own admission, the amount of money he wanted to raise, he fell short of that in the billions, right? For both oil and non-oil revenue. Yet, and this is in the first 6 months of 2020, the figures are there for everybody to see. Revenue performance, he needed about 29 billion. He got only 22 billion. So he didn't get 7 billion cedis. Meanwhile, his expenditure for the first 6 months, he's already gone overboard. He wanted to spend 41 billion. He's already spent 46 billion. He had already planned to spend more than he made within the period. And now he spent more than he planned, and he's gotten less than he hoped. Do you get me? Yeah. You wanted to get 29 billion. You got only 22. You wanted to spend 41 billion. You spent 46. It's called the scissors effect. So you are in a bad situation. Yet you are promising to spend 100 billion to stabilize and then to revitalize. So that's another tension. You are not meeting your revenue target. You are having to spend more on social protection, free water, security because of lockdown and all these things. And yet, all the places where you can raise taxes from are drying up because you have 3 types of taxes: income tax, property tax, consumption tax. Income tax has gone down. All of us sitting here, since March, you haven't received the salary that we originally hoped for because economic activity is down. So the income tax that all of us will pay will be lower if there will be any tax at all, right? Consumption tax, the amount of money we spend. Consumption tax is based on activity. So whether it's VAT, petroleum tax. If you're not going anywhere, you're not going to take trotro. If you're not taking trotro, how are you going to pay money for petroleum tax? If you're not buying anything, how are you going to get VAT? So government's two main sources of revenue, the main one being consumption tax, will also come down. You understand? So you have a tension of wanting to spend money to give hope, whereas you don't have any money. Number two, wanting to tell people a good story, whereas you are in a negative story. Because actually, you are saying that your projected economic growth of 6%, you are going to have 0.9%, less than 1% growth. Things are going to get very tough. So do you tell people that, guys, we are in trouble? Or you tell people that we are a good government, we'll do it? He has to resolve those tensions. Right? So for me, when I sit on the side, I say, wow, this is a very difficult situation we are in. The economist in me tells me that you should tend towards more reality. Lower expectations, bite the bullet, do what will help us in the long term. Don't tell us nice things because there's an election coming. Don't give us hope that where there is none, so we can see you through the election. And in 2021, you tell us actually, as we said, COVID has destroyed things. So I feel a leader's first job is to define the reality in the starkest terms. Here in this company, we're told that because of the kind of situation we are in, people have to take salary cuts. We agreed. Am I lying?
Yeah, sure.
Good. So that's how you should do it. But our political system doesn't allow that. Do you follow my logic?
Yeah, I do.
So for me, I am not very hopeful. I think we are going to be in for a lot of... He himself said it. When he wrote to the FT in April, he said this is not a bleak winter. This is an ice age. It is going to take 3 years to get back to where we were before COVID. Right? Second question, as Duke asked, that 100 billion, where is he going to get it from? Because your revenue, you are not getting. You're already spending more than you wanted. There are only two possibilities. You are going to borrow more, both domestically and externally, which is why the minority is talking on about debt. Now, if you're going to borrow more, what does that mean? For interest payments and the concomitant effects on exchange rate. Do you understand? So I think, and the other point is that Europe and co have a huge stimulus package they are giving, but they have enough reserves. We have reserves of 4 months export cover. We argue over it. NDC says 3, MPP says 4. 4 months import cover. COVID is showing to you that you probably need a year import cover. Where is that reserve coming from? Reserves come from surpluses. Where do you get a surplus from? Productivity. How productive is the economy? I think that there's a big window that COVID presented. We should have restructured the economy. We did not. Or laid the foundations for restructuring. Yes, we stabilized, but COVID has destroyed that. The structure of the economy is what actually determines your long-term resilience. You didn't do that. Number two, that 100 billion, if he's not going to get it from domestic revenue sources, then he has to borrow more. Now, if you look at his tax performance, okay, he said, well, my income tax and my communications, my income tax was the only tax I got more than anticipated. Everywhere else, I didn't get more because we are a predominantly consumption tax-based economy.
So if you don't consume, you don't get the money.
So I'm coming. There are 3 taxes. Income tax is going down. Consumption tax is going down. Property tax. He didn't tell us how much property tax he had raised, which is a very disappointing thing for me because if in a situation that we are in, the 2 areas that have grown most in the first 6 months is here. He stated it. Our growth has come from ICT and real estate. So
that's property there.
Exactly. So ICT, you don't want to tax ICT too much because technology is an enabler. So you reduce commercial service tax. I understand that. How come you haven't said anything about property tax? If you really want to raise revenue to fund that 100 billion, it means you're going to borrow it. Do you get me? So if you go into the numbers, and there are questions he has to answer. How is he going to say that in 3.5 years of government? Why didn't he tell us exactly how much you got from property tax? Why doesn't he separate that from the income tax? Do you understand my logic?
Yes.
So my argument is that things are looking grim. Let's take off our political hats. Things are not looking good for any country in the world. Ghana is no different. Let the people see the difficult situation so they can adjust and adjust their expectations.
Very well.
An election notwithstanding.
So we have an election to fight. I mean, it's government in his first term, a key member of the government. He certainly will want the government retained. He also said that virus has laid bare our vulnerabilities. You said the situation looks very grim. When it looks very grim, there are a group of people or a section of the public we must protect, what we call social protection. He said a number of things. So, for example, we're going to have water for free for the next 3 months as we had before. Electricity, certain groups of people, those in the lifeline category, are going to have it for free. CST will be reduced from 9 to 5%. I don't know if the CST tax should have remained because the other sources of income or revenue have dried up somewhat. So if you have quite a stable source, I was thinking you could leave that whilst you struggle with the others because you are not raising enough revenue. We have a big issue about the social protection bit. How do you think that we can meet those people halfway? Mind you, we spent a lot of money during the lockdown time feeding them, 54 million or so, and that figure very controversial. Now we are told that going ahead will be very tough. What is your prescription for dealing with people in that bracket, that indigent or poor people's bracket?
I am happy with the plans, as Duke said, for the poor. It's ambitious, okay. But my question is, how well do you target it? We already have evidence about which policies are better targeted than which. For example, we know that blanket subsidies on petroleum don't reach the poor as effectively as things like LEAP, which is a direct cash transfer. Okay, 10 years ago, LEAP was considered the most effective social intervention policy. At the time, mobile phone penetration was not up to 80%. Now you have mobile penetration over 100%. So your LEAP can be better targeted. I think it's one of the fantastic opportunities we have to reach the poor people. So my point is that while the social intervention may be well intended, the key question to answer is to target it in a way that will not bring waste. Because if you say you spend 54 million on cooked food, show me the ledger. If you had said to me, I have sent direct cash transfers of this amount to...
I think 50 million was used for that purpose.
Fine. So, I mean, imagine if you had said you have sent that, assuming, with all the mobile money numbers we have in the system, you have sent that money, and this is the record of the amount we sent to everybody. And people can use it for what they want. Versus eating food in the afternoon and the food, if you can't eat it the next day, the food goes bad. Do you get my point? Yeah. Why do you spend 50 million on just cooked food if you could have used it to found a way of sending the money to the people? So I have no problem with trying to help the indigent. My main challenge is how well targeted is it? And number two, where are you going to get the money from? You are saying the communication service tax should have made, you don't know whether it's as good that they cut it or not. I think it's good that they reduced it because if you put tax on communication, again, we the consumers invariably pay for it. And these days, communication is a business enabler. So you shoot yourself in the foot if you keep taxing it. That's why I keep coming back to property tax. Okay? If you tell me that I have enhanced my efficiency of collection, because property tax affects the rich. There's something we call retrogressive tax and progressive tax. Consumption taxes are retrogressive. So if you tax people buying food, if you tax VAT and those things, you and I pay. Because we have to buy food every day. But I don't have a house at Trasacco Valley. Most people who are watching us are renting property. The people who own the property, if they pay 200 cedis on a $2 million house in Trasacco Valley, the state is losing. So when you have a situation of reducing revenue and your expenditure is going higher, you tax the rich to use the money to pay the poor. But if you don't want to tax the rich and you go and borrow, we will still pay in the future. Do you get my logic?
Yes.
So I am saying that there's nothing wrong with trying to target poor people, which we should do. There's a great ambitious plan, but the devil, as Duke said, is in the detail. And when I look at the details, I'm not very sure if I see a clear path for raising that money, that 100 billion, in a way that will not jeopardize our economic fortunes in the future. So when I meet the minister, I'm going to ask him to explain how he's going to get 100 billion, how much of it is going to come from domestic borrowing, how much is going to come from foreign borrowing, how that's going to affect our overall debt picture, how that's going to affect our budget deficit in a sustainable way. Already, budget deficit has been targeted almost 12%. We put up a law that said budget deficit shouldn't 5%. Go above 5%. So we already agreed that those things cannot be met. Do you follow me? And which also brings to the point that all these numbers on paper can mean a lot when there's normalcy. But in a crisis situation, put those things on paper away and help revitalize the economy. And the other thing I needed to see was a bigger plan to empower local productivity. Not employment necessarily or salaries, but productivity. So I'll give a quick example. I'm talking too much. Quick example. So instead of saying, I'm going to give every media house 1 million cedis so they can pay people's salaries, if we reduce the cost of the business operation, reduce your statutories so you can have more resources to be more productive, then the business can go further. That's what I expect to see.
Very well. So Duke, still on the social protection thing, we talk about efficiency and we talk about targeting. So we have water, Ghana Water again, for free for 3 months. There's a debate or there's a talk that the people who really need these things do not even have pipes in their homes, and so they have to go and buy, or they don't even have potable water at all. And we saw in the last time that people who sold water said they could not go through the whole process of getting to be reimbursed by Ghana Water and all that. So they will go ahead and sell the water. So how efficiently do you think this should be managed so that the people targeted really benefit from this?
The problem of targeting. I mean, you can put in place a policy such as this, but it comes back to the issue of statistics and how well our society is mapped out. You cannot say that you are. Of course, water is very important. It's something that everybody needs. You need it for your daily activities. But if you are putting in place a policy such as this, and you don't have the right numbers, or you've not even run the right numbers, how do you segment or segregate those at the bottom who really need that? At the very beginning of this policy of free water and the payment of that, I remember very well there was the indication that for those who do not have direct access of, pipe-borne water into their homes, there will be other alternatives. Running that policy for 3 months, what lessons have we learned? I was expecting the finance minister to say that based on what we have done for the past 3 months and the reality on the ground that people do not have water in their homes, those who do not have direct access of pipe-borne water in their homes, we have learned these lessons from the fact that not everybody who was supposed to benefit from this policy got it. And because of that, these are the revised measures that will ensure that now that we are going to extend it for the next 3 months, the people who need it the most, or for want of a better word, the downtrodden, would get access to that. Then again, that was also missing. The issue of electricity, probably that was implemented at the level of free supply of electricity. That is why now the segmentation or the segmenting is very clear for lifeline consumers, because it could also have been an economic measure that is not sustainable for government to pay that amount, or that pay such an amount across the board for everybody again when things are economically picking up and things are better and people can have money to pay for these things themselves. For the implementation of the social mitigation measures at this level, it's still the same plans and the same lofty ideas of money being allocated towards it, but the real lessons from implementing such a social mitigation measure for 3 months did not come to light in this media review presentation. Very well.
So this is what the papers are saying. We'll take a quick break, return and wrap up on this topic. Don't go away.
Representing a country is no small feat.
Because in Ghana, the love for Israel is so real, People are nursing it from home, from churches, and then you are walking in such a positive atmosphere and all the doors are open for you.
View the lives of the diplomats in Ghana through their very own eyes and see how they make Ghana their home.
I always loved it. I love the remains of African culture in Brazil. I am very interested in the way Africans were able to, amidst those horrible conditions, they were capable of transforming their African heritage.
Join me, Apiako Sarah Mashong Abe, on Diplomatic License every Saturday at 5 p.m. only on City TV.
You're welcome back to what the papers are saying. My guests this evening are Bernard Koku-Able and Duke Mensah Opoku. In concluding on the matter of the mid-year budget review, Bernard, you made a point that it appears we are in a very, serious situation where there is a bit of tension between the revenue we'll be making or we are making and what the expenditure will look like. It appears government is quite clear on what it wants to do, huge expenditure items. For example, we had this Agenda 88 being the district hospitals, regional hospitals, and infectious disease centers now upgraded to Agenda 111 or 111. Sounds great. What do you think government should be doing? And there are other lofty ideas that government is putting forward. It doesn't appear we have the money right now. What do you think government should be doing, maybe efficiency-wise or other things? What do you think government should be doing to ensure that somewhat they meet these targets they've set for themselves?
Okay, thank you. When you have a recession like we are in, unprecedented, with the kind of crisis we find ourselves in, you need to prepare people for the difficulty ahead, which is why I talk about the reality and the picture that has to be painted. But that doesn't mean that you stop spending, because the economy is very funny. Whatever when your behavior indicates that things are going to get bad, the economy follows. So I like the idea that government wants to spend. There's nothing wrong with wanting to spend. But the question is, where do you get the money and how do you do the spending? Do you understand? So the idea of stimulating, so he says there's stabilization and revitalization. Makes a lot of sense. Stabilize, give people relief, let the businesses continue working, let people have free water, free electricity, let economic activity go on, knowing that even though the virus has come, people can't move around too much. So give them money to be able to spend so that you are stabilizing. You don't let economic activity keep going down. That's why America is fighting over opening the states. Then revitalize. Great idea. But how do you revitalize? You want to build hospitals. But good idea, because you need more hospitals. The question then becomes, where do you get the funding to build a hospital, and how do you build it so it does what you want in the long term? Do you build a hospital so it's big and people can say, MPP is good, we'll vote for you next year? Or you build it such that it releases economic resources to small pockets of industry. So for example, you can go and take 10 billion CD loan from China and bring Chinese to build all the hospitals for you. They bring laborers to build all the hospitals. We all have hospitals. And then the Chinese, you will pay back the money to them. They bring their workers, so they develop their economy. You get a hospital. Or you can say, no matter where the money is coming from, I'm going to use local contractors and subcontractors. I'm going to use a door maker from Medina.
Which is what they will do in this case, because...
I'm coming. So I'm giving a general point. Okay. So it's not what he says he will do, but we have to see whether he will do it. Okay. Now, you can build 88 hospitals, give the hospitals to the people. When another disease comes, they have hospital to go to. But I can deliver that 88 hospitals in a way like the guys did for the infectious health center.
The private sector people.
You've united people. Fidelity Bank, all these bodies have come together. You've used local architects. You've used local materials. You've used local technology. You've strengthened our local banks. You've given our artisans money. You've used labor from the place the hospital is being built. So guys have money to spend there. So it's not just the what to do, but the how. So the challenge is not the 100 hospitals they are building. It's how you implement the building. Because you can build a lot of buildings and just lock up money in a brick. People are building multi-million-dollar apartments in cantonments. It's not helping anybody. Nobody's renting it. They are bringing in high-level technology to build it efficiently, but money is not spreading through the local economy. So it's the how. The devil is in the how. So once again, to answer your question, the idea is great, but he set a point. He says that it's the details. If the government is managed to use these buildings to stimulate the economy, there's argument between the two main parties. MPP say we spent on free SHS, NDC we spend on infrastructure. Those who cry infrastructure say if you spend on infrastructure and the money is locked up in infrastructure and you don't use labor-intensive local resources that can boost the economy, you've just locked your money in a huge bridge. Okay, so I think because of the need to revitalize the economy, again, look at the hints. There are only two sectors that grew in the first, or the two fastest growing sectors in the first 6 months. Real estate, construction, and ICT. Manufacturing hasn't even grown yet. So, and don't forget, industry has manufacturing and the real estate sector. Manufacturing is not growing. because we don't have the know-how and the skill. We have gone through decades of deindustrialization. But you can say, let me use these hospitals as a way of revamping industry. All these artisanal people, all these guys who are cutting glass, all these roofing people, all these Asda Tech and these people, give them the contracts. Give the thing to the greater people. Okay? Tell the local banks to come together. In doing so, then you have a long-term ability to revitalize. But don't just say, we will build 100 hospitals, and we the voters say, Charlie, Nakova, you'll be big man, you build 100 hospitals. So we are happy. And at the end of the day, we don't have any food to eat, we don't have any work to do, and we fall sick and go to that hospital. Do you follow me? So, because COVID has created a unique situation where countries are looking inward, for the first time, our imports dropped so much that within that 3-month window, we had a balance of trade surplus. Exports fell, but imports fell so badly. What are we doing for chicken producers? What are we doing for local rice producers? What are we looking for local vegetable farmers? What are we doing for all those who produce the things we need? Local t-shirt makers, mask makers, pharmaceuticals. This is the time to use your big plan to stimulate them to be self-sufficient. So you can create capital to do what we want to do. So if another crisis comes, we won't go back to where we go to. So I'm saying voters and Ghanaians should not just say, oh, we are getting hospitals, we are getting food, we are getting these things. The government's plans must be implemented in a way that structurally transform the economy to make our children not suffer what we suffered. That's where the question is for the finance minister.
So Duke, let me take a final word on this, and then we go. People have even questioned why hospitals should be built at this time. I think Bernard makes a good point about revitalizing the economy. I don't know where you stand on that debate, really.
Well, it's sad and worrying that it has to take this pandemic for government to think critically.
The hospitals will take you at least 2 years to build.
Yes.
In 2 years' time, you don't think the situation will be this way. So maybe that will be for the future.
Yes.
And then we don't know whether we will have a pandemic of this sort.
But first of all, the point must be made that it's not right that it took this pandemic for government, this is successive governments, to think about getting proper facilities, health facilities, properly so-called district hospitals in districts that did not have one. That is where this Agenda 88 came from in the first place, which is now being upgraded, or we now have 111 hospitals that government is looking at. Again, the component of funding will be very important, and we'll be looking forward to that detail, because we've had, it looks almost like an albatross around government-funded projects, the neck around government-funded projects. When this country, the notorious gang of 4 projects, almost every year it was in budget, because it was a government of Ghana funded project for years, almost close to 10 years. It did not see completion. I don't think citizens or us, as we're asking the questions, would want a policy code named 111, Agenda 111, without having the right funding sources to ensure that the projects are delivered on time to deal with the health issues that are supposed to be dealt with for everyone to have access to proper health care, because health, they say, is wealth. But just to conclude, in spite of all of these things, we must avert our minds to the fact that the situation as it is with the global the pandemic as it is in our local situation is still something that much more aggressive work needs to be done to deal with it. Because as we speak today, 3,400 active cases. 6 months, from March up until now, that's like 4 months. 3,400 and over 3,000 active cases as we speak today. The managers of our health system, government needs to do more to cut down the numbers, whichever, toolbox is available to government, whether law, policy, management, whatever it is, it takes for government to do that, to bring down the numbers so that we can stay our way out of this, and further open up the economy to create the needed, to create the needed jobs and bring up incomes. I think government should avert its mind. Otherwise, in spite of all of these lofty ideas and the plans that have been put in place, if we are still in a dark public health situation, it would amount to nothing for me.
I want to move on to the next story, but Bernard, I couldn't resist this. I know you're a big advocate of helping local companies, etc. I heard you discuss stimulus package. I heard you discuss tax breaks, etc., for companies. It appears this budget does that. So there's something in there for Katanka, something in there for even Kasa Preco, and the agenda 111. We are told it to go to local people, designers, etc. Is this where we should be? Just briefly.
Of course, I like it. I love it. We need more than just the poster boys. So yes, Kantanka, yes, Kasaprek. We need a lot more. This is what we should have been started 20 years ago. And so I think that this is the right path to go. But again, look, we've heard before they're saying, oh, there will be tax reliefs for small businesses who are of a certain size. Has that really been implemented? So the follow-through is more important than just the promise. So yes, this is the way to go. But we have to make sure it is done. And it is done in a way that helps the industry together. So for example, pharmaceuticals. Why do you just pick one company and say let them produce hydroxyl chloroquine? Pharmaceutical industry is a place where competitively you can compete with Nigeria and India if we are supported well. Why don't you tell them to come together and form a consortium? So there's Danex, there's NS Chemist, there's Kama and all these people.
Poku Pharma, quite a number of them.
So you can select winners, but you can also say, look, because of the situation we are in, come up with something for me so that I can support the industry, because that's what you need. So it's a great idea, but I think it should not just be selecting one or two. Let's support the industry. That's what I would say.
Very well. So we jump to the next topic: violence or pockets of violence, to be rightly put, in some registration centers. Registration, in fact, over the years, hasn't been very smooth. We've seen a number of these things. Every now and then we see some disturbances at some of the polling station or registration centers. But it appears this year it's taking, should I say that we've seen a worsening of that situation. And I think the incident at Kaswa made it worse in the terms of the fact that a minister of state, an MP for the area, admitted to firing shots at the registration center. Many people have come forward to criticize, others have even called for her dismissal or for her to resign. But also, others have also come to her support or aid, saying that she did so in self-defense. So, Duke, what really is your thinking around that? The fact that we are experiencing such chaos at certain registration centers, Kaswa, Banda, a gentleman died there, I hear Esutifi South, and a few other places. What is happening?
Well, it tells us how our democracy is not growing. Because for a democracy that's at least under the Fourth Republican dispensation, that's close to 30 years.
But we've had 4 successful elections. We've changed governments or presidents, about 2 or 3 times. In fact, 4 times. We've had Rawlings, we've had Kufuor, we've had Atta Mills, we've had John Mahama, and now we have Nana Akufo-Addo, from various parties, apart from John Mahama and Mills. So that certainly should signify some growth.
The fact that we are good at being an electoral democracy does not mean that we are doing well in terms of becoming a developmental democracy. So we are good at, satisfying the test, changing presidents, changing parties. But if we are seeing basic things like going to get your name on a voter's roll, causing people to fight, ministers of state shooting guns. Of course, now she has admitted that she fired warning shots.
Lost their life. A teacher was shot and died at Banda.
Yes, a passerby, someone who's the pride of the family, completed training college, going to see the mother. Passerby, a simple registration exercise. Someone loses their life. I think it's a failure of the institutions. What the institutions are supposed to do, they have not done it. The Electoral Commission has warned politicians not to, sort of go to these areas. That's why they have polling agents there. But for me, the basic issue is that our democracy is not growing, because look at even the kind of arguments that characterized that preceded this registration exercise. Going to register your name, put your name down to get onto the voters' roll to vote. Why should it be a matter for people to be exhibiting such form of violence?
The role is the register is important. If the register is faulty in your view, then your chances of winning the elections become dim. So it's important the role is right. So it depends on who is speaking really. If one side feels that the role as it was disadvantaged them, they will do whatever it would take to get it in their view corrected.
I get that point, but the mindset that, I mean, a parliamentary candidate, and if you've seen the videos of what transpired, what has become the classic case of the violence at this point, the Kaswa Steps to Christ Registration Center, where you have two candidates hurling insults at each other freely, and I have not seen
to be role models.
Yes, I have not seen the video where the gunshots went up, but I mean, people have said that evidence has admitted. We cannot be for people who are supposed to be at that level, engaging in the contest of ideas, encouraging such violence. If the candidates themselves are doing this, and in all of those instances, it's either one of the contesting, candidates has led this or is blaming the other person. A lot of these tensions are fueled by the candidates, and you would see that in most cases, outside all of these tensions, they sit down and have conversation and talk about all of these things. But at the end of the day, their supporters and those who are behind them do not see this. I think that those who have a stake, especially the people who are mobilizing others to go for these elections, need to do more to ensure that it doesn't speak well of us.
Very well. Bernard, people think that this situation or situations as we've seen them are symptoms of a highly competitive or even too competitive, electoral space. And they even trace it to the fact that the winner-take-all concept of democracy we practice is blamable for this, because it becomes like a do-or-die affair. You get all or you get nothing. So you must throw everything at it to ensure that you don't lose out. Do you think same?
It's true that the winner takes all and the politics we do allows this to happen. But the failure of institutions perpetuates it. So the cause can be correct, that yes, everybody wants to win election. But if the police don't apply the law with the firmness they require, that is required. If they apply, you arrest a candidate in Winneba for challenging the police. Somebody says on radio that she heard that people were being bused to a place, and so she and her boys moved to the place. She didn't say, I went to report to the police. She moved to the place, a crowded place, and fired a gunshot. And the police say they are thinking of, when I interviewed the police, they are going to invite her. Right? Parliament doesn't seem interested in putting her before Privileges Committee. President hasn't uttered a word about it. What are you telling us? So don't blame the fact
In fact, I heard a party chairman, Freddie Blade, this evening trying to dismiss this. He said that we were over-exaggerating what happened. So this was a woman who felt threatened and felt the need to defend herself.
No problem.
So she shot.
Yeah, but that's her side of the story. You see, this is what we do, and we undermine institutions. So now if you are the police commander, can you go and arrest her? If the MPP chairman is saying this. Didn't we all see the video? You see, in Ghana, politics is now the only standard for progress. If you belong to the right political party and your party is in power, you can do anything you want. You don't build societies like that. You are destroying the country. Number two, you've passed a vigilante law. Okay? You've passed a law that suggests that you want to stop political vigilantism. A candidate says she and the people she went to, who are they? Are they official security people? What role do they have in elections? The people who are working with her, she has the state has given you a police officer to protect you. We paid the police to go with you. You said the police hadn't come to work. So the people who are working with you, what work do they do?
They are her supporters.
They are supporters.
In her entourage.
Fine. Who is a political vigilante? You see, when you have cases like happening in Kumasi, you have all these things that have happened, then you go and pass a law, and yet something happens and your party people defend it. You are sending a different signal to us. We don't judge leaders by their intentions. You judge them by their actions. If we want to stop this, the president must act decisively. We are saying he's acting boldly in the budget. He should act on this matter. Because you see, you want to go and register and which is even funny. We can't find people to send them mobile payment to join a 3-week lockdown. Yet we can rally people to go and register to vote for us. The electorate must also start seeing the cynicism in the way our politicians treat us. When you go and register, they will sit there with notebook, NDC, MPP, they want to write your name. because they want you to vote for them. When there's a 3-week lockdown, watch Caleb Kuda's TV show. A woman in Kantamatu said she was eating Gary with her children for 3 days. They said we shouldn't go out. She doesn't have food to eat. There's no money for her. When she goes to even bath, she has to pay. That's the violence we perpetrate against our poor people. And then we logo them to go and register. What's the value of the voter ID card? Does that entitle you to any money? Just to vote for somebody to come and do this? I think that we have the Peace Council, which we have created as a body to mediate between our political actors, says either Hawa Kumsin resigns, Parliament Bracket Privileges Committee to sanction, or the President must sack her. None of the three is going to happen. For me, I'm very disappointed. And the President cannot sit on the fence on this matter. If he wants to show us that he's committed to all the laws that he's passed, he has to make a clear statement. And we shouldn't be waiting for his Deputy General Secretary of his party and chairman to direct. In some instances, he must act as head of state, not leader of party. So in this case, he has to clearly choose the state over the party. That's how you do it. There are certain instances you can call your party communicator and say, we are in an election year. But when things like this happen, you must take on your head of state role and tell your party people that that's not why I was elected, to come and perpetuate such things.
And he must do it publicly?
Of course. Because once you become president of all of us, not all your party people. And so that line must be clear, the role of head of state over leader of party. He has to show it.
Very well. So you're still watching what the papers are saying on City TV. We'll take a quick break. We'll return and see what the other interest groups have been saying. The Peace Council has spoken, Occupy Ghana is spoken, the EC itself is spoken, and indeed the police, the enforcers of the law, have also spoken on this matter. We'll hear what they had to say and see if indeed their calls are legitimate. Don't go away.
We're about to change your Sunday night for the better.
This Sunday on the Upside Down Show, we turn the show upside down with a city extravaganza. We are showcasing the amazing talent in the city. Get ready to boogie at Club Upside Down with the resident DJ, DJ Men's Man, and enjoy fantastic renditions from the city band featuring Nathan Kwao, Apioko, and so much more. Then catch the fashion side of the head of news, Vivian Kai Loco, and watch one-time national sword drill champion Bernard Avle face off with gospel artist Pastor Neil Kine. It's going to be a show you can't miss. Upside Down, this Sunday at 7 p.m. only on City TV.
You're welcome back to what the papers are saying. My guests tonight, Dugmensa Opoku and Bernard Avle. A number of institutions or bodies have spoken about the violence or pockets of violence we are seeing at registration centers. So the Ghana Police has spoken, the National Catholic Secretariat, that is the Ghana Bishops Conference or Catholic Bishops Conference, spoken, the Christian Council of Ghana has spoken, and the Ghana Bar Association has also spoken. Indeed, the NDC, as expected, has also spoken on the matter. And for a lot of them, the message is clear that Hawa Kumsin should either resign or be sacked, and that the police must act. The police, in their statement, only reminded that threat or intimidation of a person to further that person's interest, and I'm quoting, or an affiliate related to a political party or office holder, amongst others, also amount to an offense under the Vigilantism and Related Offences Act of 2019. And finally, they caution all to adhere to the rules and regulations laid down for the registration exercise, including following the EC's challenge procedure for ineligibility. Duke, is this what we expect of the police at this time, or we expect them to act and bring perpetrators of these crimes to order? They are only cautioning that we adhere to the rules and also reminding us that some of these acts are criminal. Is this what we expect? Or we expect them to take the bull by the horn and exact or maybe ensure that justice is served?
This is I mean, the statement is vague. It does not really communicate anything.
And the statement was signed by Sheila Kessie Abaye Bachman, Superintendent of Police, Director, Public Affairs, dated 22nd July 2020.
If the police, I don't think the police needs the permission of anyone to do what they are supposed to do in this case. We are told that, I mean, the only bar or the only, barrier to this may be the fact that she's a member of parliament. But clearly, this is an act that happened when she was not anywhere near parliament. For that constitutional provision to be used as an excuse not to get her arrested, or not to get her to face the law. I think that the police needs to do.
You couldn't just have arrested her. So I thought the police did what was right by informing the speaker first, right? Because it's become a convention. I don't just arrest a member of parliament. She could have argued that she was on her way to parliament. She could have argued saying that.
Does the speaker make laws for Ghana?
No, the speaker doesn't make laws, but the law is that
is very clear.
You don't arrest somebody on his way to parliament.
Somebody has admitted on radio that she heard that they are busing people, so she's going to check it. Does the route from her house to parliament pass through that police station? Let's stop these things. And Speaker said what? Does the speaker make laws for us? There's written law. It's very clear on what to do. So you see, if you want to build a country, you strengthen institutions. I don't blame the police. If I'm the police PRO, you think when the party chairman has gone to say this, why should I? If we don't allow institutions to work, we will not have a future. Whether we support NDC or MPP, let's speak the truth when it happens, so that we can build a stronger institution and stop this. If my party person, so let me do this and that. That's what destroys nations. We should stop it.
Duke, I mean, you are in parliament. We've heard Muntaka Mubarak, minority chief whip, saying, that he, not in so many words, but does not believe in hauling her before privileges committee because it will be counterproductive. He said, indeed, I recall that he himself hauled Kennedy Japan before the House. We don't even know what has become of that. So he's even proposing the setting up of an ethics committee. I don't know if that works in 30 seconds.
But it's a reminder of his own experience, and also a fact that has been proven over the years, that the Privileges Committee of Parliament seems to act only when it involves those outside Parliament. When it comes to members themselves, over the years, over the period, I mean, the proven fact, based on, number of cases show that when it involves a member of parliament before the Privileges Committee, we don't see the action that has to be seen as compared to when someone, a citizen who's not a parliamentarian, is brought before them. And I think that is not right. It is not right. Maybe the Ethics Committee may help, but as it is the case, it may also turn out to be another moribund committee.
Very well. So I think we have to end it here. We have run out of time. This is how we conclude today's edition of What the Papers Are Saying. My name is Selom Adunu. My guest today have been Bernard Kokoavle, host of the City Breakfast Show on City FM and Point of View on City TV. He is also, when he's not on radio or TV, he's general manager of City FM, City TV. And you heard Duke Mensa Opoku as well, who is City TV, City FM's parliamentary correspondent and also host of The Chamber on City TV. Have a good evening and see you next time.